It's 12:04 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday. That means it's Joe Steckler Day, Helping Seniors of Brevard. And here is your host of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Joe Steckler. Hi, Joe.
Hi, John, and thank you all for listening. We wouldn't be on the radio if we didn't have listeners, or if we weren't trying to acquire listeners, and we hope that you enjoy the product that we bring to you enough on 90.3 FM WEJF in order to not only for you to listen to us, but the way the show is going to grow, folks, if you tell your friends and other people to listen. And out of a population of over 600,000, roughly 650,000 in Brevard County now, 24% are senior citizens. And Kerry, Fink, and I are going to talk to you this morning about some things that you need to go. And I'll tell you that this show is designed to inform, educate, and connect seniors to resources that are available in the county and other places in order for them to meet some of the needs they have as they grow older and they simply don't know where to go for help. And we have a lot of wonderful people that help us do that. And if you look in Senior Scene magazine or else on our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org, you'll see all of our sponsors. But this morning I'd like to call out the fact that we have three attorneys, Bill Johnson, Ruth Rhodes, and Amy Van Fossen. All are sponsors of the radio. We also have two financial people, August Felton and Tom Vest. We have several listing, Air Care and another audiology place that they're sponsored. We don't have exclusivity. We welcome all sponsors. And if our organization is going to go large enough to really have an impact on the future for seniors in Brevard County, we are going to need your help. Look, and I'll ask Kerry to talk about it too, because he's also involved in fundraising for a different way, but I'll give you my own perspective of it. We operate on a budget of about $225,000 a year. With that, we produce radio, television, articles and columns in newspaper, a newsletter that goes out in Senior Scene magazine, a full-time education specialist on the phone that answers your questions and directs you to help. Now, what the heck is that worth to you? I'm 85. I'll be 86 next month. I myself have had certain needs over the years where I've accessed some of our resources. There isn't one senior alive that can tell me that they don't have some kind of a problem. If you do, you're perfect. And the only one person I know is perfect is not on this earth. So, having said that, as long as I am involved with helping seniors, it will always be my desire, my mission, to do what I can to make seniors aware of the needs that they need to be involved in. And having said that, I'd like to ask Kerry Fink, who's doing the show with me today, to add to what I've said. Your turn, Kerry.
Well, it's an interesting moment because yesterday I was at giving a talk to a group that meets monthly in the Space Coast area, and the group was actually having their luncheon. They're called the New Neighbors of South Brevard Beaches, and it's essentially it's a group of social people who get together and they share a lot of activities, but they also try to do things that improve the community. And they had invited us to come in and give a presentation and basically educate them on what we do with helping seniors. And one of the things that came up in the conversation, which I think is always important, they said, well, what does helping seniors do? Well, number one, we're all about getting information in the hands of seniors that can help them with their aging plan. So the first place that really comes down to is our Senior Information Helpline. I was explaining in that meeting, that since you founded the organization in 2011, we've helped over 2,500 families free of charge. And Kim added that, on a typical day, she's handling anywhere from 10 to 12 calls incoming from people who are responding to that Helping Seniors phone line, and starting with a list of questions of things that they need help with. And as small as our organization is, it has been incredibly effective at helping people resolve some situations. And then we got into the second leg of what Helping Seniors really has done, and we explained that here we're sitting in a beautiful hotel. They had this luncheon at the DoubleTree right there on the ocean, and as lovely as all that was, we live in a county that's 72 miles long. So people who live in Mico or Mims have a hard time accessing the information if it's in Melbourne or wherever it is. And I said, because of that, we've been committed to getting information in the hands of seniors through every available media that we can put our thumbprint on. So we've done for years, as you know, the newsletter in Senior Scene magazine, where someplace between 12 and 14,000 copies go out every month. And those are quickly snapped up because people are looking for that information that's in our newsletter that's in the center section. It's why we do the radio. 30,000 watts FM, just blankets the Space Coast. And it's another way that we get the information out. Doing the television programs that are both available 3 times a day, Monday through Friday, on the Space Coast Government television channel, and then also on our own YouTube channel on demand anytime you want to access them. I was just looking. We've done over 225 TV programs, 225 in the time that Helping Seniors has been organized and effective. And I know you've done hundreds, actually before that in Alzheimer's. But then we get involved in events. Okay, so whenever there's senior expos, we're out there meeting people, talking to them, answering questions, trying to be of help. We do all the things online. We have the website. We have all the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, all those things that people access on social media. And then on top of it now, at our permanent location there at the Senior Resource Center of Brevard, located at Zon Beachside, it's that new complex there, just right there off of South Patrick Drive. We have our office, and then we're doing these community information events twice a month, basically, to continue to get information in the hands of seniors. And then, Joe, the thing that you mentioned when you walked in here today, which is so important, because you could have heard a pin drop in the room. I said, okay, so we understand in this county how important children are. We think children are so important in this county that we all voted to take another penny sales tax so that our kids could have the best schools possible. So we not only take tax dollars for the school system, but we add a penny to everything we buy so that the schools can have what they need to have to ensure our kids a future. That's great. Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. And I asked the audience, I said, tell me what your guess as to the amount of dollars that we have $1 billion a year budget in Brevard County.
1.3.
Okay, way more than I thought. $1.3 billion budget in this county. I asked them, I said, could you tell me what you think the percentage of dollars that are specifically dedicated to senior programs are in this county? And a lady in the back raised her hand, said 5%? I said, nope, that's too high. Somebody else, 3%? When I said the actual number was less than 0.1%, you could have heard a pin drop. It was shocking. Nobody. I said when you ask the commission people who are connected, they say, oh no, we have all these programs. We pay for roads, we pay for libraries, we pay for all these things. So the question is then, that's how they justify. Say, well, no, the seniors are included, but we're talking about. You don't use that argument when you're saying we need a penny sales tax for kids. What can we do that's better for seniors? And so the advocacy portion of what Helping Seniors does needs to become more and more prominent, because I don't think people really understand the facts of this.
Well, let's pick up on that a minute. Probably one of the most needed things right now to prepare for what we're doing now and for the future is affordable housing for seniors in Brevard County.
Mm-hmm.
We have a huge senior community that is only going to get huger, and actually the word would be larger, not huger, but I make my point. You don't know how many seniors are going to need that affordable housing. I'm fortunate that I retired as a Navy captain, and I saved and programmed so that I got involved in the stock market at a time when I was a captain. I couldn't do it when I was a lieutenant commander. I couldn't afford it. When I was a commander, we paid 16% for a house loan.
Wow.
You don't save when you got kind of an expense. But I found that we could save. And little by little, we put more aside. So now we're in a position, my wife and I, with my retirement, my Social Security, her Social Security, and what we managed to save, the fact we, over a period of years, bought our home and now own our home, we're in a position where we can take care of ourselves. But not everybody retires as a captain in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody retires even close to having enough income in order to live a decent life. And by decent, I mean affordable housing, a place to live, medicine, food, the stuff we need. How many of you would want to go to a thrift store to buy second-hand clothing the rest of your life in order to live? There are so many darn things that go on with the seniors in the community that people don't even know about. I picked up the paper this morning, Kerry, and one of the headlines was talking about Mr. Lober being elected chairman of the Brevard County Commission. I read further into the article, and it was time to appoint the commissioners to 15 advisory boards and different things that the commissioners serve on. Of those 15 things that the commissioners sit on, not one had the word senior in it. Mm-hmm. Not a blessed one.
Mm-hmm.
Several weeks ago, I was invited to go to a meeting in one of our cities on affordable housing. I watched this guy from Brazil that was an investor try to tell these very low echelon people that, hey, look, you put so many obstacles in my way with impact fees and everything else that I can't afford to turn my capital into a project to help with affordable housing. And he said, here I am from another country trying to invest in the United States, trying to help you solve a problem that you know exists, that is not going to get better, it's only going to get worse. We were going to have a second meeting. That was almost about 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard another word. I will call a realtor that was involved, and I will ask if anything is ever going to happen of it. But my point is, why isn't our county commission aware, or if they are aware, why don't they have a board, a planning group that addresses affordable housing? Kerry, very, very few private investors are going to invest in affordable housing when they know if they can even make a return on their money, much less a small profit. People don't invest in capital and things unless they can have some kind of a prognosis that they're going to be able to pay their bills, to be able to pay the cost of the interest of their... See, most of these people that go into this, they invest a certain portion of their money, but they get a large portion of it from the banks. They have to pay that money back. They have to pay the interest rate on that money back. And if the government doesn't get involved, if some of the $1.3 billion, and let's break it down. when we talk a $1.3 billion budget, there is so much of that money that is already designated for salaries, for retirement funds, the sheriff's budget, and the sheriff's budget gets a huge, huge amount of the money. I have nothing against the sheriff. We need the sheriffs. But doggone it, do we need to have everything that the sheriff thinks that he needs every year at the expense of other things that you know as well as I know that the citizens need in this county? And I'm so disgusted because, you know, older people love to pick up the newspaper and sit there with their coffee and their cereal in the morning and read the newspaper. I'm darn afraid, after reading another article in the Florida Day that talked about the revamping of the Gannett Foundation, as to how long we might really have a newspaper here in Brevard County. Mm-hmm. And if we go to the internet news only, you're going to find a lot of people that are not going to read the newspaper. And people that are listening to this show should be paying attention, because a lot of this could be averted if most senators would call our office 473-7770, and that prefix is 321-473-7770, and say to Kim, I want to become a member of the advocacy board, the planning board. That will be. We've got it started, folks. We've sent letters to the county commission. We've gotten no replies, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to push it. We're going to push it in 2021.
Yes.
But if we're going to push it, 2020.
2020.
Not 21. We're not going to wait another year.
No.
I can't wait a year. I don't know if I'm going to be here another year. But while I'm here, I'm going to do what I can to push, to advocate, to push seniors, and to start organizing. And, you know, the budget is paid by all of us. Think for a moment, Kerry. Mm-hmm. You know, I pay roughly $6,100 or $6,300 or something in taxes. Mm-hmm. What if $100 of that $6,100 I pay, instead of $1,700 of it going to the school board, what if $100 of that went to a affordable housing commission that is monitored by the county commissioners, and the money that the percentage that would go out of that at school board for seniors was started to be putting into affordable housing for seniors. You mentioned early on in your talk about the 1% that goes in there for those children's schooling and everything else, for an extra $32 million, when there are almost $700 or $800 million in that school budget, and Governor DeSantis has just said he's going to put more money into the schools.
And remember, too, in this county, this was another statistic that I shared that kind of raised eyebrows again yesterday, is that in our county, we have more people over 65 than we have children under 18.
I've been saying that a long time, Kerry.
Yeah.
Yep. Ironically, folks, the title of the show today, and I never mentioned it, was Brevard from a Senior Viewpoint. I just wrote an article for a publication, and it was published in Hometown News 2 weeks ago, Brevard from a Senior Viewpoint. You ought to get it, read it. You might be awakened to some of the problems that we have in Brevard County. Look, I don't hesitate to write about problems, but I guarantee you that everything I say in those articles, those columns I write, I can prove to you. Mm-hmm. There is no largesse taken on my part to try to cause something to happen or promote something that I can't prove. And I think that's important. And you're a radio guy. How many people, Kerry, in the course of your career that have been on radio that are dishonest people?
Well, that's a loaded question. I would hope not many, but you do run across a few.
Heck, there probably are. I guess I shouldn't have said it that way, but there are. But and generally speaking, most radio commentators get on the air, and I remember several years ago, and John Harper will remember it, because we had a couple that were on the early morning show, and almost every day it was an attack on Florida Today. Every day.
Wow.
And I said, holy smokes, where do they get all that stuff? Well, the problem is that I now know where they got all that stuff, because I'm getting the same thing, Kerry.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see it wasn't a direct attack on the people of Florida Today. It was the way they were doing business.
Sure.
And when you look at what we've got, we got a beautiful place to live. Mm-hmm. But I go back to something I said. Just think about 650,000 people in a county. What if just 1,000 wrote a check for $100 and sent it to Helping Seniors and said, this is to be used to help develop affordable housing. 1,000 people writing $100 checks, folks. That is $100,000. And let me tell you, with a $100,000 guarantee and a county commission getting involved a little bit and another bank becoming part of the plan, you sure as heck could put together a plan to start an affordable living complex. And we have all kinds of land available in the county, owned by the county, that if they wanted to pump in sewer and lighting, electrical, and the systems they need to make it work, to build something on, why can't Brevard County have the same thing here when we have that villages over on the west coast?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. This there was a news piece they did recently on, I think it was on Channel 9 out of Orlando, and they were talking about that we in Central Florida have one of the worst affordable housing crises in the nation. And at first that seems, you scratch your head and you say, well, how is that possible? This is otherwise a fairly reasonable place to live. But what they explained was that if you had a working family with two wage earners, and that they are both at minimum wage, then they're going to earn $2,500 a month. And so then the average that you could afford to pay by all the little standard rules of thumbs is about a third of that out for your living. And if you have $2,500 and you take about a third of that, you're at about $800. And they're saying now the average cost of an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment in this county, is about $1,500 a month. So that's why families are being squeezed. Now, let's break it down for seniors. And this was the other thing we talked about yesterday at the meeting. So if you have been fortunate and you've done smart things, then you're probably okay. But we get calls every day from people who are trying to decide whether they're going to eat or buy a medicine that might save their life, because they were trying to make it on $600 or $700 of a Social Security check, and that is all in the world that they have. So how does a person like that even begin to be able to look at an apartment?
And folks, what Kerry say is the absolute. We're almost at our mid-show break out 1 minute, but in this time I will tell you that I give him my solemn word that over the last 5 years, I have talked to many a woman that was living on $800 a month, when in fact they had a husband that had been a veteran, and
Yes.
they were honestly eligible for almost $1,200 new dollars on top of the $800 because of their husband's veterans. And I'll talk a little bit more after the break, but we're going to take a break right now. But stay with us. Go ahead and talk about some VA benefits after the break, because that's something you need to know more about it. Stay with us.
12:34 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. It's Wednesday, Joe Steckler Day, helping seniors of Brevard. And once again, here's the host of the show, Joe Steckler.
Well, welcome back to the second half of the show today. It's not just Joe Steckler, it's Kerry Fink, is just as responsible as I am for saying what we're saying here today. And if anybody can accuse Kerry of me of saying the incorrect thing, then I want you to call here at WEJF at 90.3 and call us at 722-9998. You can call if you agree and call if you disagree. If you want to be a $100 pledgee to the new movement, and it's not socialist, it's not anything like that. It is a strike, a blow for freedom for seniors. And doggone it, I get upset, I get fed up, I get agitated about this, and I have for a number of years, Kerry. And you've known me, and well, as long as you have known me, you know that I've always advocated for information in seniors. No matter how much I write about it, no how much we talk about it, no matter what we do, and the articles in Senior Scene magazine, of which 12,000 copies are distributed at 500 locations every month for our county. And generally speaking, I say something about the VA, not always, but darn it, it's in there enough for people to really know that if you're a veteran or the wife, unmarried spouse of a deceased veteran, you are eligible for the benefits of your husband's service. And the number to call is 633-2012. 633-2012, and a voice will come on there and it'll say something about team. What you want to do is press the button. You want to talk to a team specialist. And all you have to do is say, I am so-and-so. My husband served as a veteran. I have his paperwork, and I'd like to know if I'm eligible for any benefits. Now, if you've got an income of $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month as a widow, yeah, you're not likely going to qualify. But if you're a widow making $600 to $1,200, $1,300, maybe up to $1,400 a month, you are going to qualify for as much as $1,200 in money that you are not currently getting. And if you're living on $1,000 a month, ma'am, think what another $1,000 would mean to your budget. And you that are listening to me, if you're not a senior, if you're not a vet's wife or anything like that, I will bet you a bottom dollar that you know someone in Brevard County whose husband was a veteran, is deceased, and they probably don't know about the benefits that senior citizens are eligible for. I just encourage you, and if you're afraid to call the Veterans Office, if you think you need to have more information, call Kim, our education specialist, and the number for her is 321-473-7770. And Kim has got a pretty darn good idea from what you tell her whether you should be calling the VA out there to ask for things or not. But regardless of how much you make, your husband at his death is eligible for certain benefits, which include a headstone, a burial plot, And there are other things associated with his death that you need to know about. And the way you do that is you call the veterans office and you tell them the situation. Believe me, they will listen to you. They will certainly do that. So you just have to keep talking about that, and that is for a spouse. And let's say if your wife was a retired vet guy, you might be eligible for something from her service. It works both ways. Kerry?
Yeah, no, I was going to say one of the things that's really interesting that often comes up, and again, we talked about this in yesterday's meeting, people don't understand the programs that are there. I wish there was a simple way that everybody could access everything correctly in a simple way, but there are different programs that are available, and that was one of the things that we pointed out. The value of what Kim does in the Helping Seniors office, manning that senior information helpline, as I was saying, I know we don't really use the term Rolodex anymore because everything is on computer, but she's got 3-ring binders filled to capacity with resources. So when somebody calls in and says, here's what I'm trying to resolve or trying to find a path to, she's able to go to this book and start coming up with places to go that have a high likelihood of resolving it. And what you're talking about when you talk about VA benefits is the same thing. Somebody may be eking along trying to somehow keep their head above water when they are entitled to this VA aid and attendance benefit, which, by the way, when you sign up, will, even if it takes a month or two for it to get started, once it's approved, then it goes back and kicks in from the day that you applied. So you don't want to wait. You want to get that application moving right away. So those are the kind of things that are available. But you know, the Bible says people perish for the lack of knowledge, and that's certainly what happens. We use the story again. I can't tell you. It seems almost inconceivable, but we'll get people who don't even know that programs like Meals on Wheels exist. And so one simple phone call can probably change things around and put things on a much better plane than they might be before that call.
Yeah, and if you feel badly about having somebody bring a meal to you, I think there are 12 locations in Brevard County. I think it might be less than that now, but there are a number of locations in Brevard County that serve the shared lunch program, where you can, if you can't afford it, you can eat free. Mm-hmm. But I hate to say this, they encourage you. Some places will encourage you to make a donation, and some people that go there, it makes them feel bad, and they won't go back. I, honest to God, have had people tell me that. So when I hear that, I always call the people responsible for Meals on Wheels and say, please, don't do that, because you have a very, very needy group of people often that go there for a meal. So be careful how you treat people. Mm-hmm. You can do more damage by treating somebody an incorrect way. And I got off on that. Thought there was something else I wanted to talk about, and doggone it, I'll remember it. But you know what? I get fired up because people, we are going to start this advocacy group. And somebody sent an email to me last night and talked about how much we accomplished with a very, very small group of people. Mm-hmm. And it's true. But we do need volunteers. We need volunteers that will act like they were getting paid to do something and actually be involved. I had a lady call me and say, Joe, I will manage your volunteer program free. And I know she means it. What we have to do is build a very, very small plan that we can work towards accomplishing through senior advocacy. And believe me, folks, if we unite, I'll say that again, unite is the key word, and involvement, continued involvement. And we pick a place in the county, not necessarily in our office, but we're in a pretty central location. And we have a room now that will accommodate about 100 people. So if we have an advocacy group of 25, 30 people that want to get there, we'll form a very small group out of that, sort of an executive committee group that will meet more often. But if the group says, I want to meet so often, that's what we'll do. We work by what the group wants to do, not what one or two people want to do. And that's a problem I have with our county commissioners that we currently have. I remember years ago going before the county commission and saying, seniors need this. And I can remember a commissioner looking at me and say, what? How much? What do you think, Joe? And I would tell him an answer. Most of the times we got the problem solved, Kerry. But the reason we got it solved was because it was a group of interested people that were just a little bit older themselves.
Right.
That saw the problem going on. And today, the fight on the county commission seems to be civility, how many resolutions we're going to make, how long it takes to make a resolution. That is sheer stupidity when we got people camping in the woods.
Come on.
And then we got people driving the woods campers out into the open because they don't want them camping on their land. And you think of the sanitation facilities, folks. Think of the bathing facilities. Think of what problems these people have in just trying to live. Most of us, and I'm sure almost everybody listening to me on this radio show, unless you really got a problem getting into the shower or bathtub, takes a shower or a bath every day. How many days do you think a homeless person goes before they can take a shower? Ever think about that?
Wow.
How often do they get a decent meal that is hot and eaten hot? How many of them have a warm place to sleep? And the nights, like the last couple of nights, it's been pretty darn cold. Would you want to have tried to sleep in a paper or a cardboard hut? Would you want to do that? I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't want to do it. Heck, I was a young man in the Kentucky National Guard trying to sleep in a doggone pup tent. I couldn't keep the water out of the pup tent, so I decided I'd go into the Navy. And little did I realize that when I was in my submarine, I had one of them where they put the packing glands and the periscope upside down. So we didn't know that till we went on patrol and we're using the periscope more. And I had to stand my watch as a senior officer in the conning tower with a sou'wester gear on, the hat on, so that the water would run down my back down to the periscope well. And we had the pumps going all the time to drain the water.
Wow.
And you know, when you're doing 62 days submerged patrol like that, you get a heck of a lot of water in there. No and it gets pretty wet sometimes when you have to live under conditions like that. But there's, homeless people live that way a lot. And I get people that call me and say, Joe, why doesn't our leadership recognize the fact that we need to do something for affordable housing? And then look at the paper this morning, here's this business about some lady gave $3 million in the name of their mother to Brevard, to the Florida Institute of Technology for the Fusetta Museum. And now they're going, Florida Tech is going to withdraw their support in 1 year, and they're going to sell the Fusetta Museum, and they're going to sell the land the thing is on. And everybody's screaming out because they don't want to lose the Fusetta Museum, when in fact, if Florida Tech got that much money, they said they invested something like $7 million in that museum. I sure as heck don't know where it went because it's pretty run down to me when I look at it. So there's just a lot that is said that people seem to want to say it without really understanding what the real facts are, Kerry.
Well, the key that you just, when you use that term leadership, I was just thinking as you were talking through this, the issue really comes down to leadership for making senior issues aware to people who are probably not necessarily bad people. It's not that they're anti-senior, is they're just inundated with every other request. Somebody wants more parks so they can walk their dogs. Somebody wants a place where they can have an art museum. And there's nothing wrong with all of that. I'm not saying that. But who is going to take the leadership role? Well, obviously that's us as helping seniors. We have to take that leadership role in advocating for seniors because, quite frankly, when we don't, there's not another agency in town that really does. I mean, there are other agencies that tag certain issues that seniors have. You know, you have an Alzheimer's Foundation. You have different groups that are concerned with different, diagnoses. But who is actually caring for the plight of seniors? It's helping seniors of Brevard.
I wish that I got the amount of money in state and federal dollars that the Alzheimer's groups get in Brevard County and had that money earmarked for senior affordable housing. I guarantee you that if we got all of that money, I could take that money and get a loan from a bank and start the first of the Brevard County villages, which would be a home for seniors. Because by hook and crook, somehow I think I'd probably browbeat the county commissioners into giving us the land someplace that we could start a senior village that would be something that would attract people to Brevard County. We're always worried about how we're going to attract. And we look at a Tourism Development Commission, we think about all the money we spend there to, quote, attract tourisms and tourists and everything to Brevard County. What the heck is wrong with having affordable housing here, a surplus of it, so that we could attract seniors here to live here that would spend the money and would be part of our community? What is it that we want to have in our community to grow? Do we want to have young people coming in or trying to make their way? Or do we want to have established people come in here that have the money to spend? You know, when we talk about affordable housing, we're not always talking about the people in the community that have to be supported to live. We're talking a lot of people that can afford, that would want to come here and pay what it costs. You could have a sliding scale cost in one of these affordable housing complexes to base what the fees would be to live there on the person's assets. Mm-hmm. It can be done. Kerry, there is nothing that can't be done if we have a group of citizens that put their mind to making it happen.
Well, I would encourage you to think about, because we talked about this yesterday, how you were the driving force behind establishing the Joe's Clubs in this area where seniors finally had an opportunity, or caregivers really had the option to finally get some help, at least during certain hours of the day. And you were able to spearhead the whole plan. It goes back to the leadership. You were able to spearhead a plan where you got everybody to at least get on the same page long enough to establish that whole concept. What if we could do the same thing and get everybody on the same page to say, this is what we ought to put our mind to. Let's create a model community like that, or let's do something that moves the needle so that we can move from, talking about the need, but trying to offer that solution. Exactly.
Do something. Mm-hmm. Kerry, I'll tell you, honest to God, I could never have been the leader in building those 3 Alzheimer's centers and doing all we did here in Brevard County to care for people without the support of the 5 county commissioners. And there's a lot I know that I can't say on the air, folks. Mm-hmm. but some of those people that helped us in the past now have a need for some of those services themselves.
Wow.
And I just found this out here recently. But the spouse of the person involved that I'm talking about understood what we were doing, and the person involved was a very loving, caring person that understood that everybody wasn't on the same page in terms of financial ability.
Mm-hmm.
And we had commissioners that understood there were going to be needs in the future that had to be met. And some of those commissioners, folks, if you look back through the archives, take a look back at some of the things that people like Sue Carlson, Nancy Higgs, Truman Scarborough, Scott Ellis, people like that you think just raised hell. Scott Ellis has raised a lot of hell on radio and television and everything else, but that man has done more to bring honesty to the whole way we conduct business here in Brevard County, and the same thing can be said for looking at Brevard from a senior viewpoint. We've talked about financial care. We've talked about future stuff today, Kerry. We've talked about affordable housing. We've talked about financial support. We've talked about radio, television, newspaper. We've talked, let's see what this other down here. What we haven't talked about is driving down the cost of care. And I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about that, folks. Because, well, we only got 2 minutes.
Time flies.
Oh, car to my car. Yeah, we got 3 minutes. Okay, yeah, I see that. You got a new clock here, and I'm watching you. Folks, there are a number of care organizations that do very, very low-cost care, but for the way the licenses are structured, they can't touch a person to help them into a shower. Now, you tell me, why can't a person that has got enough training, regardless of a license, be allowed to help a person into a shower or put the medications that's prescribed by the doctor on the bottle on a tray and give them to a patient? There are just a couple of things that the very, very low-cost elements of care can't do. So what does that do, folks? That drives the person that needs the care up into the next category, costing them more money, when in fact what they really need could be done by the lower cost providing service. So what I'm saying is, instead of the governor starting all these new daggone programs, Kerry, is that they should be looking at what is currently being done and doing a better job of defining what the license requirements are. And that would take some work.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that question of leadership. Somebody needs to advocate that role.
But it goes back also to having the support of the government to make it happen. And I served as the chair of, many years ago, folks, I served as the chair of the task force that took 6 months to figure out the license, the training requirements for affordable, organizations that took care of dementia care people. And let me tell you, as the chair of that thing, trying to pull people from across the state of Florida together.
Wow.
Was extremely difficult. You know, we did it. And we did it because we worked together. I was the chair. I listened to what everybody said. I put everything down on a piece of paper. And the next meeting I said, here's what we said. Where do we want to go from here? We're down to 1 minute, folks. I don't know. Maybe Kerry and I have tried to beat you up this much today. But I go back to the fact that...
Hopefully we fired him up, Joe.
I just hope we fired you up a little bit. Look, helping seniors needs your financial support. I'll be honest, very, very honest about it. We need it. We need it because we need a director. I'm getting to the point where I can't do it. Not because I don't want to, Not because I won't always be involved in it, but I will. But we need the financial support to improve what we're doing. So with that, I just want to thank you, Kerry, for being on a show with me, and I'll give you the last word.
Well, speaking of fundraising, it's the fun part of this, but the Helping Seniors Car Raffle is now live. HelpingSeniorsCarRaffle.com. Get in there, take a look at these cars, and buy your ticket online.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Kerry. I forgot to mention. Okay, John's still working the board there. I guess he's still letting me talk. Are you? Are you still letting me talk? He gave me the cross figure, sir. So I just want to thank you, folks, and please listen to us next week. I'll have Jennifer Helen on next week, and maybe Kerry too. So we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.